today's video, I'm pretty much just gonna go through like 5 interview questions that you would be asked if you were gonna go into the banking industry. And let's just get right into it. The previous video that I had made was the pros and cons to being a teller. So this kind of ties in hand if you did want to pursue the banking industry, what kind of things to be prepared for, questions that are going to be asked. So if I look down, I'm just reading some notes. One question that's definitely going to be asked, I'm going to go over 5 questions. So one question that's definitely going to be asked is, how do you handle a escalated situation? And number 2 is, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do for fun? That is a common question, but to be able to answer that is always a good thing. A lot of the times I feel like when I'm interviewing people, I get the answer, oh, I don't know. And that person, it can kind of give off that somebody's unmotivated and they don't like to do much. So at least have an answer. There has to be something that you like to do. Even if it's, I like to go on walks, I like to take jogs, I like to read a book. Anything is an answer, just don't answer with, I don't know. You know, that is my biggest tip on that one. 3 is, how do you work in a fast-paced environment? This one is obviously depending on what branch you work at. It obviously depends on where you are for location. Some branches are slower, some branches are a lot busier. So that question really depends on what environment you're getting yourself involved with. But if it is a slow environment, you could also ask yourself, how do you handle being in a slow environment? Some people get really bored, they end up hating their jobs because of it. So it really depends on you as a person, and usually if they're asking you that question, is because their environment's that way. So number 4, tell me about a time that you went above and beyond for a customer. You know, I feel like that one in the banking industry is really big because most branches is about maintaining your customers, how you can keep them, what can you do to help them, making sure that your customers know that you're there for them. Like, how can you tell me about a time that you went above and beyond for your customer or for someone? And then question number 5, I think would be, what is your idea of selling? So when somebody says, sell something to me, what does that mean to you? I think that they're definitely going to ask you this question. Most banks are sales-based, so that is one thing that you have to know how to answer. Sometimes they'll even ask you a question along the lines like, or sell me this. They'll ask you to give me kind of do like a role play scenario. They'll say, give me a scenario. I am the customer and I'm walking up to the teller line. How would you sell me this credit card? I feel like that is another question that might be asked during an interview that is pretty big. If you do a good job on that, usually most of the time the interviewers are very impressed. Okay, so those are the 5 interview questions that I had, but I decided that I wanted to give you guys 2 bonus tips. 2 bonus tips is, always know the history of your company. So it doesn't matter if you are going into retail, if you're going into the banking industry, or whatever field you're going into, always know the history of what you're doing, because they're gonna ask you why this bank or why this company. And if you have a little bit of background, if you know their mission statement, that's a big plus, because you'll be able to use that mission statement and they'll be pretty impressed with that. And then my last tip is, always ask a question. Always ask a question. You know, usually at the end of the interview, they're asking you, do you have any additional questions for me? Is there anything else that I can tell you about the job? I would always say is ask a question. Go in prepared to ask a question. So my go-to questions, if let's say for example, I didn't, or I wasn't prepared, I would always ask them like, how did you become a manager? How did you end up in the position that you're in today? But if you guys want to know on how I answer some of these questions, leave a comment down below and I'll make a separate video of me answering these questions. I just wanted to share with you guys on some questions that interviewers ask when you're looking to get into the banking field. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoy this video and take care. Bye-bye.